Hello there, everyone. My name is Crazy Caleb, and today we're going to be taking a look at another hellish module, Cruel Color Flash. Now, this module actually isn't too bad with work compared to what Speaking Evil has done beforehand, but this module is very tricky on the diffuser side, and let's get into what this module actually wants you to do. So, obviously, one of the key distinctions between Color Flash and Cruel Color Flash is one of the immediate things that you can notice is the background of it is actually red in this case. Everything is red except the display, of course, and the display is actually cycling a little bit faster than it normally is, too. And one last thing that's a little bit niche is that there is indeed the color cyan and the word cyan that can potentially pop up in the actual display itself as well. We've seen the color cyan, the word cyan can pop up as well. That normally wouldn't pop up in Color Flash, so just another thing to keep in mind. Same thing with black as well. Black would not pop up as well in the actual Color Flash. So let's get into this module. So what's going to be happening is that this is similar to what's flashing right now. Is what we're going to be using to get sort of like Simon Says. We're going to be using this RGB table here, and what we're going to do is we're going to break apart three RGB components. The three components RGB for both the colors of the flashes and the words themselves. So we're going to be doing this 2 times instead of 1 like we normally would for Simon Says. And what we're going to get is we're going to get a Morse code character, and this is going to be in base 36. Base 36, for those of you who don't know how this works, is going to be all of the numbers 0 through 9 and all of the letters A through Z. So it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we're going to go into alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, so on and so forth. That's how base 36 works. So let's hop right into this thing. So it's going to be in Morse code, and what we're going to have is we have the potential of actually getting a number, so we want to get a fair, decent length of characters, a little bit longer than we normally would with Simon Says. Now, I'm going to, for the sake of using this tutorial as just a way of demonstrating how this works, I'm going to get all of the colors, and I'm actually going to write them down here and break them apart. If you don't know Simon Says, I would advise you to know how the Simon Says works for getting the read, for example. You don't necessarily need to know how the module works, though this is a good module to learn. I like this one a lot. But knowing how the actual color mixing works is going to be a huge part in understanding this module, but I will, of course, explain this along the way, too. So, let's get into this. So generally, what I'd like to start with is I actually like to start with getting the flashes first. The flashes is probably the color flashes are probably the hardest part of getting this module. So let's get into this. So let's just start writing this stuff down. I'm going to use the first letter of each color, except for black. Black is simply getting marked as kilo to differentiate between black and blue. So let's hop right into this thing. So we have white, yellow, black, blue, white, blue, yellow, magenta. Excuse me, that was red. Yellow, I should just do that over again. Let's start again. So it's going to be colors. And this can be a bit tricky because it is moving a lot faster than it normally would be for Color Flash, for example. So let's do it again. So we'll do, let's start at white, yellow, black, red, magenta, white, blue, green, black, yellow, cyan, white, blue, magenta, yellow, green, yellow, magenta, white, cyan, yellow, red. I think that should hopefully be enough. I'm going to get another sequence just to make sure. So let's do yellow, blue, white, yellow, black, red, magenta, white, blue, yellow, red, yellow, cyan, blue, yellow, green, yellow, magenta, white, cyan, yellow, red. That should be definitely a little bit more comfortable. I feel comfortable with that. So let's use this entire sequence right here. So the way how I would normally do it is I start with red, basically, where I'm looking for red, yellow, or magenta, or white, because each of those parts have a red component. You're essentially breaking this apart into the RGB components. So let's do that. So that's going to be red. Now, I'm going to mark the spaces where there is no red with a dash, like this. So we're going to do red, then red, then red. Wow, okay, this is actually going on for a long time. Red. Excuse me, red, space, red, space, red. Okay. Now, the way how determining the Morse code works is if it's simply one space like this red right here that I've highlighted, what that means is this is a dot, and these three combined together is simply going to represent a dash. So what this is it actually cuts off a little bit. It's going to be dot, dash, 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 dash. The maximum amount of characters you can have in the Morse code is going to be 5. And we happen to get a dot, dash, 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 dot, dash, 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 which is going to represent a 1. So red is going to be equal to 1. Green is going to be, let's see what it is. So green components are going to be green itself, yellow, cyan, and white. Everything is going to be in part of white, but we're mainly going to be looking for green, yellow, and cyan. So yellow, 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 then skip, then white, 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 then skip, skip, skip. Beginning of the new sequence. This little 3 space means that this is the end of the sequence, and we begin anew. The sequence is essentially going to cycle itself, so that's why the different color combinations can potentially pop up, just because of the fact that that's the way that it works. So green, space, green, space, greens, green, green, space, green, 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 space, green, 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 space, space. This would have been the end of the sequence right here. So what this means is this is our message. Dot is going to be dot, dot, dash, 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 which is dot, dot, dash, dash, dash. So what this means is that this is going to be 2. Green is 2. And finally for blue, blue is going to be representing the blue component, and then it's going to be part of magenta and cyan, and it's also going to be part of white. So let's see. Look, so dash, dash, dash. That's the beginning of the new sequence. That's perfect. So blue, 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 space, 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 blue, 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 space, space, space. Okay, cool. So blue is just simply a dash, which represents a tango. So tango is going to be for blue. Blue equals tango. And now we figured out all of our color flashes. So I'm going to mark this with a color, and we're going to move this down. So now let's take a look at the words in this case. So let's write the words down. So we'll do green, blue, white, magenta, yellow, blue, red, magenta, yellow, black, yellow, blue, white, magenta, yellow, blue, black, blue, yellow, red, yellow, blue, white, magenta, yellow. That should be enough by now. So let's figure it out. Alright, so for reds, so space, space, red, 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 space, red, 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 space, red, space, red, 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 space, 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 and this is our message right here. So our message is going to be dash, dash, dot, dash, 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 dot, dash represents a Quebec, so red is going to be equal to Quebec. Next up for green, let's take a look back at this. So green, space, green, space, green, space, 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 and the sequence, green, space, green, space, green, space, green, space, space, space. So this is going to be 4 dots. Dot, 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 dot is going to be a hotel. So green is going to be hotel. And finally for blue, let's see what you're worth. So blue is going to be space, blue, 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 space, blue, space, blue, space, 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 and the sequence, blue, 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 space, blue, space, blue, space, space, space. That's going to be a dash, dot, dot. Dash, dot, dot represents a delta. Blue is going to be delta. This is going to be our words. So now we've gotten everything from the module that we need to get. The only other thing I'm going to note down is the serial number for a special little case. It's here. And our serial number is 268 Hotel Papa 6. Alright, and let's get into the module. So I'm going to pop this up. We don't need to look at the module anymore for now. So what this is going to be doing is the reason why we're actually able to get letters, as I said, everything in this case is going to be base 36. To keep that in mind. And for those of you who don't know how to do base 36, let's hop out our handy dandy calculator here. So calculating calculating letters in base 36 is simply going to be as this. You're going to calculate their alphanumeric position. In this case, Quebec is 17. And we're simply going to add 9 to this, because remember, for example, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we have alpha afterwards. Alpha is simply 1 plus 9, which will give us 10, which is the next position. 9 plus 1 is going to give us 10. And it's very simple like that. That's how that works. So, Quebec is going to be worth 26 in base 10. 8 plus 9 is going to be 17. And obviously, getting it from a number back to a letter is going to be pretty simple. You're simply going to get the value that you have. If it's not less than if it's not less than or equal to 9, it's simply going to be if it's less than or equal to 9, it's going to be a number. If it's greater than 9, then you're simply just going to subtract 9 from it. You're going to get your letter. I'll explain that later on if you need help with that. So then finally 4 plus 9 will give me delta, which will be getting 13. 1 is worth 1, simple as that. 2 is worth 2, and then tango is 20 plus 9, which is going to give me 29. And these are our values in base 10 from base 36. We'll be using this later on just to make our lives a little bit easier, and I'll explain that with how we want to do this. So what we're going to be doing is, for the first step, is we need to determine between the words cases, the words being here, and then the color numbers. This is how they're going to refer to this. Word numbers referring to the transmission we got from the words, the actual words themselves, and the color numbers representing the words we got from the actual flashes of the colors. That's the way that this is going to be referred to. So, and if it happens to be both of them together, it's going to be referred to as transmitted numbers. Since this is base 36, the letters are still going to be technically counted as numbers. I'm just going to refer to them as characters from now on. So what we're going to do is, the first things first, if we need to determine which, of course, we're going to be doing a series of operations later on. So we need to figure out which one is going to be our functions and which one is going to be our inputs. And we're going to do this by using these series of rules here. So obviously, only the rule will only tell us which corresponds to functions. What this means is that the other one corresponds to the other option, because it can tell you either functions or inputs. So simply, if you happen to get a rule that is true, you will simply say, hey, which one corresponds to inputs? This is going to be the, like, for example, if color corresponds to inputs, we know for a fact that the other one is going to be functions. So word is going to be functions, and vice versa. So that's just what we're going to be doing here. So if there is a duplicate word number, so if there's a duplicate character in the word flashes, which there isn't, that is not true. Otherwise, if there's a duplicate color number, nope, there's no duplicate color flashes. Otherwise, if any word number is the same as any color number, this pretty much opens the floor to if there's any duplicates at all between the two. These first 3 rules is just simply checking if there's any duplicate characters. Obviously, we don't have any duplicate characters. Quebec, Hotel Delta, 1, 2, Tango, none of those are duplicates. If 3 or more transmitted numbers are less than alpha. Now, what this means is that we've had less than alpha, for example. Let's go back to this. We marked this as 1, 2. I can remember that. It was 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. And then alpha. So what this wants us to do is this wants us to check if there's any actual numerals that we had present. We did have 2 of them present, so having 3 or more is not true. And the next rule is if no transmitted numbers are less than alpha. That is not true. We have 2 of those guys present. We don't have 3 or more, but we don't have none. So that's what we're going to be doing here. 1, 2, and then 29. Otherwise, if the serial number contains 2 or more transmitted numbers, this is why I noted this down. 268 Hotel Papa 6. Now, actually, we do have 2 or more transmitted characters or numbers. We have the 2 here, which corresponds to the first position right here, and we have the hotel, which corresponds to the word. So, since transmitted numbers is referring to both the color numbers and the word numbers, this rule will be true. And the color numbers is going to be corresponding to the functions. So you are going to be the functions, and the words are going to be the inputs. So now we've determined the inputs and functions, so we've done that part. Now we're going to go down to this little operation table here, and each number can be found in exactly one of the fields below, and apply the corresponding inputs to the corresponding operations to the corresponding input. Now, what exactly does that mean? So what this means is that, for example, the red input will be following the red function. The green input will be following the green function, and the blue input will be following the blue function. So simple as that. Red stays with red, green stays with green, blue stays with blue. They don't branch out unless specifically said otherwise, because sometimes you can have subtract the previous input in RGB order, but I'll get into that later. So our functions. The first one we're going to be using Quebec as the input for 26, and 1 as our function. So let's find 1. And 1 is simply saying we're going to use the next input in RGB order with wrapping. So what this means is that if you happen to have the blue, the next input would be red. So that's the way that works. So use the next input in reading order. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, that simply means that we're just simply going to replace this character that we got from before. I'm not going to replace it quite yet because that's going to be important later on. What this simply means is we're simply going to take the next input that we had. So red goes in red. The next one is going to be green, and we're simply just going to write that down. So the next input is going to be 17 or simply hotel. And that's all we're going to do for that step. It's simply just replacing it. There might be addition or subtraction, there might be division or multiplication, but obviously there might be just simply replacing it. In this case, we're just simply replacing it. Next up, golf is going to be, or the green value, excuse me, is going to be using the to function. To function is going to be here. And we're going to evaluate the total number of dots and dashes in Morse code of the inputs. So let's simply break everything apart here. So of the inputs, let's break apart the actual Morse code of these guys. So we have, for Quebec is dash dash dot dash, hotel is dot 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 dot, and delta is dash dot dot. So now we're going to evaluate the total number of dots and dashes in the Morse code of the inputs, which is equal to 11. So this is going to be an 11 right here. And now what we're going to do is, if the input itself is less than Juliet, we're going to add this value, otherwise we're going to subtract this value. So, taking a look here, hotel is our input, and obviously that input is going to be less than Juliet. Hotel comes before Juliet, so that means it's less. What this means is that we're going to be adding 11 to this 17. So 11 plus 17 is going to give me a 28. And 28 is going to be the position of -9, which is going to be 19, which is the alphanumeric position of a Sierra. That's what that means. So that's that function taken care of. And finally for blue is going to be using the function of tango. Tango is going to be, where is it? Oh, the same thing. So we had 11 dots and dashes beforehand. And now what we're going to do is, if the input is less than Juliet, which delta is less than Juliet in this case, we're going to simply add this value. So 13 plus 11 is going to be 24. That is good to go. Yep. And then now we're simply going to -9, which is going to give me 15, and which is an Oscar. Yes. Okay. And now we're done with the actual function of the work. So now we're going to take a look at the outputs that we got. Now, let's pay attention to this rule, and we're going to take each output modulo 10 before proceeding. Now, one important thing that really actually screwed with me personally is, remember that all numbers in this manual following this sentence are in base 36. So this is not simply moduloing 10, like for example, like you'd have 19 mod 10, it would give you 9. That is not what we're after right now. Let me make sure I'm recording. Yes, I am. That is not what this means. This simply means that for those of you who know how to do bases, bases is simply, we're simply going to take this into base 36. Base 36 would be 36 to the power of 1, and then 36 to the power of 0. We're going to place the 1 and the 0 here, and what we're going to do is we're simply going to, 36 to the power of 0 is simply 0, we're not adding anything, and 36 to the power of 1 is simply 36. 36 times 1 is going to be 36. So what this is asking us to do is instead of moduloing by 10, if something happened to be above 36, for example, we would simply modulo by that in base 10. So, example, if we had 60 in base 10, we'd simply modulo 36, get it back down to 24, minus 9, it would get us back to 15, and that would be Oscar in this case. This is what that modulo means. It's not modulo 10, where you get the last digit of each input, or of each output in this case. That is what that means. It's very important that I stress that, because that has messed me up personally before. Simply anything you do, if it happens to go above 36 in base 10, you're going to modulo it by 36. So now, we're going to go into the last little bit so we can get our submission to this module. So, if all three outputs are equal, no, they are not. Hotel, Sierra, and Oscar are not even remotely equal. If two of the three outputs are equal, no, none of them are actually equal at all. So that doesn't make sense. Two of the three outputs are equal to a transmitted number. Let's take a look. Hotel is equal to hotel. That is true. Sierra is not equal to anyone, and Oscar is not equal to anyone. So there is one matching character with a transmitted number. Now, the next rule, obviously, oddly enough, is going to be one of the three outputs is equal to a transmitted number. This rule is true. The final value is the difference between the other two. So we had hotel here, and these guys match. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the other two outputs, and we're going to get the difference between these two here. So what we're simply going to do is taking the base 10 versions of it, we're going to do 28 minus 24, give us 4. And what this means is that this output is going to be 4. And now our final value is worth 4. We're going to go down here and we're going to figure out how to submit this into the module. So there are 2 different parts for this submission. Well, it's not parts, but it's definitely 2 different sections of the submission. If the final value is greater than or equal to A, so this simply means if there's letters at all, the letters being in the characters here, or if the final value is less than A, what we're going to do is we're going to press the correct button when the last digit of the second stemmer is equal to the final value. Otherwise, so let's take a look here. If the final value is one of the transmitted numbers, so what we need to do is we need to simply figure out if we're pressing the no button or the yes button. So we know for a fact that we're pressing it when the last digit of the second stemmer is equal to 4. Pretty simple enough. However, what we need to do is we need to take a look at these little rules here. The greater than or equal to A rules will have some special rules. Hopefully I can get a case with that, because there is a lot that I need to go over, but a lot of pretty self-explanatory rules. So let's take a look. So if the final value is equal to one of the transmitted numbers, 4 itself is not equal to any transmitted numbers. We only had 1 and 2 present, not 4. Otherwise, if the sum of the numeric digits of in the serial number is less than the final value, taking a look here, no. The numeric digits are definitely not less than 4. I can tell you that. Otherwise, if the final value is equal to the last minute's digit of the starting time, which I started at 16 minutes for this, so that is not true. So it's not equal to the last minute's digit. It's not even equal to any digits minutes, so that's perfect. So we're not going to follow that rule. Otherwise, if the final value is less than the number of ports, let's figure that out. We don't have any ports, so so 4 is not less than 0, so that means that rule is not true. Otherwise, if the last digit of the number of modules present is equal to the final value, we only have 1 module present, so 1 is not equal to 4, so no, that is not true. Otherwise, if the final value is less than the number of batteries, let's take a look here. Number of batteries. There are only 2 batteries. It is not less than 2, so that is not true. Otherwise, if the final value has the same parity as the number of solved modules, yes, that is true. Parity in this case means it's referring to even and odd. And in this case, if they have the same parity, there is 0 solved modules, and there's going to be 4. Our final value is 4. What this means is that this is true. Both of them are even digits, so they have the exact same parity. So this is going to be true, and this is going to be our final rule. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to press the yes button. So we're going to do the yes button on the last digit being 4, and this should hopefully solve the module. Yes on the last digit being 4, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. And just like that is a solved module. So let's take a look at one final example, and this module itself is pretty straightforward. There are some rules that I kind of want to go over. Remember, if we take a look at some of these outputs being greater than 22 and being greater than 4K, I want to explain some of those real quick, because we need to remember that everything in this is base 36. So we need to keep that in mind. So while I am loading up another example here, I'm going to go over a couple of different things. So 22, so if the sum of the outputs is greater than 22, now 22 is not what you think it is. It's not simply 22 minus 9. It's not Mike. It's not Mike in base 36. No, it's not that. What it simply means is that it's 2, 2. So this means 36 to the power of 1 and 36 to the power of 0. What this means is that this is not 36 times this by 2 plus 2. This means that 22 is 74 in base 10. We need to figure out if the sum of the outputs would be greater than 22 in that case. And then for the next example, if the sum of the transmitted numbers, all of them together, are greater than 4k, so 4, then k, so 4 is going to be 36 times this by 4, plus 11 plus 9. So if all of the transmitted numbers are greater to 164, that's what it's referring to. And it's everything, all of the transmitted numbers. That's what some of those things mean. So, keep that in mind. Alright, let's get into this next example, and let's see if I can get this right or not. And I'm going to go through this a little bit faster, because we already know how to break apart the colors, and we know most of the rules by now at this point. So let's break apart the colors first. Let's break apart the flashes. Let's do yellow, black, green, blue, white, blue, yellow, magenta, red, blue, yellow, green, blue, white, cyan, yellow, magenta, yellow. I believe that should be enough by now. And one of my friends, his name is Dicey, by the way. He said a little bit of a good technique is to actually simply zoom into the module, close enough to whereas you actually can't see the words at all. Now, of course, this might be a little bit of a seizure sort of thing or epilepsy sort of thing. So if you can't do that and it doesn't work for you, then by all means don't do it. But it's just a little tip that one of my friends recommended to me. So I figured I'd share it with you guys. So let's start breaking apart and let's see if we actually have enough characters to determine if we can get all our characters from just these 20 spaces here. So, red space, red, red, red. Okay, beginning a new message, that's promising. So, red space, red space, red, red, space, red, space, space, space. Okay. So, red, we already figured out what our value is going to be a dot dash dot, which is going to be a Romeo. So, red is ironically equal to Romeo. Next up, we're going to be taking a look here, pop out our Simon Sens manual again, green space, space, green space, 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 green, space, green, space, green. Now, using my logical deduction, I believe this is 5 characters long, so what this means is that this was the end of the dash right here, and then these are going to be the next 3 dots. So what this means is that green is a dash dash dot dot dot, which in Morse code is dash dash dot dot dot, which is a 7. Now, of course, I will be checking it because I know how to do. I know how to just simply parse the display in my head because I know how I've done this for long enough. So let's take a look. So it's going to be waiting for the message to restart somewhere along the lines. Dot dot. I believe this is it. Here we go. Dash. Dash. Yep. Dot. Dot, dot. Yep, so that's dash, dash, dot, dot, dot. Yep. And that is good to go. So, finally for blue is going to be blue, cyan, and magenta, and then, of course, white. Space, 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 the beginning of a new message, that's perfect. Blue, blue, blue. Space, blue, space, blue, space, space, space. Perfect. So, blue is going to be a dash, dot, dot. Dash, dot, dot is a delta. The delta is going to be what it is for blue, and that is going to be the colors taken care of. So let's move you guys down, and let's get our words. I'd say the words is particularly easier for some reason for me than the flashes. The flashes you actually have to look, and you have to break it apart a little bit faster. So let's take a look at these guys here. So we have red, cyan, magenta, blue, black, cyan, white, red, cyan, magenta, white, red, cyan, magenta, cyan, red, black, cyan, yellow, white, magenta, cyan, red. That should be enough by now. Yeah, I don't know. I find myself comfortable with getting the words instead of the flashes first. Whatever. So let's do red space, space, red space, space, red, space, red, space, red, space, red, space. Yep, that looks good. Red. That's good to go. So for red, it's going to be a dash, dot, dot. Dash, dot, dot is a Zulu. So red is equal to Zulu. Now for green is going to be green, yellow, and cyan. So it's going to be dash, space, green, space, end of sequence. Green, space, green, space, space. For green, it's going to be dash, dot, 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 dot. That's going to be a 6 in Morse code. So 6 is going to be green right here. And finally for blue, let's take a look. So blue is cyan, magenta, and blue, of course. So space, blue, space, blue, space, blue, space, blue, space, blue, space. Oh, wow, okay. Space, blue, space, blue. Okay, so this gives me a reason to believe that this first dot over here was actually the beginning of the message. So what this means is that this is going to be dot, dash. So dot, dash is a 1 for blue. Blue is going to be equal to 1. Alright, and let's get into this module. So let's figure out what our, let's get our serial number first too, just in case. We have Hotel Delta 9, Uniform Whiskey 4, okay. And let's take a look here. So this was our words, let's keep that in mind. And let's zoom in. So if there is a duplicate word number, do we have any duplicate word numbers? No, we do not. Do we have any duplicates at all, for that matter of fact? Romeo 7 Delta? Nope. Good to go. So we can skip these first 3 rules here. It's a nice simple way of doing that. If 3 or more transmitted numbers are less than alpha. Now, this actually is true, because we have a 7, we have a 1, and we have a 6. And remember, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, alpha. If 3 or more transmitted numbers are less than alpha, 1, 6, and 7 is less than alpha. This means this rule is true. The word numbers are going to be corresponding to the inputs. So what does mean? Word numbers correspond to inputs, color numbers correspond to functions. I believe that was the exact same situation we had last time. So let's take a look at this. So let's break our inputs up into base 36. So this is going to be 26 plus 9 is going to give me 35, which happens to be the last character before it becomes 10 for base 36. The next up is simply 6, and then the next up is simply 1, perfect like that. So, for our first function, we're going to be using Zulu, and we're going to be plugging it into function Romeo. So let's take a look at Romeo, and Romeo simply wants us to use the next input in RGB order. We had this before, so we're simply just going to take this 6 here, and that is what we're going to do for that function. Next up, green wants us to use 7. So green wants us to use function 7. If the input is a multiple of 3, divided by 3, otherwise add all inputs that are less than alpha. Now, this case, it actually is a multiple of 3, so we're simply going to divide this guy by 3. So 6 simply divided by 3, as you would expect, is a 2. So 2 is going to be our answer right there, and that is going to be the end of that, which will be our final output. Next up for blue. Blue wants us to use 1 as our input and delta as the function. So delta is our function, and we're going to be evaluating the total number of dots and dashes. So let's take a look. And in some cases, I want to make sure that I explain these ones. If the smallest input is actually itself, we're simply just going to double it. If we happen to have the case where this was it, the smallest input was B1, so that would be true. This would become a 2 because of the fact that it's actually adding the smallest input, because it's adding itself. So just keep that in mind. So evaluate the total number of dots and dashes. There's going to be quite a few here. So Zulu is dash dash dot dot. 6 is dash dot 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 dot. And then 1 is dot dash 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 dash, which is a total of 14. Now, 14. If the input is less than Juliet, which 1 is by far less than Juliet, we're going to be simply adding this value. So 1 plus 14 is going to give me 15. Now 15 in base 36, 15 minus 9, is going to represent Foxtrot. And now, this is the end of the model. So now we're going to go down into the last little bit here. Everything is below 36. That makes sense. That's perfect. And now we're simply going to take a look at our final value. If all 3 outputs are equal, no, they're not. 6, 2, and Foxtrot are not equal. Otherwise, if 2 of the 3 outputs are equal, none of them are equal. If 2 of the 3 outputs are equal to a transmitted number. Now, 6 is equal to a transmitted number, 2 is not equal to a transmitted number, and Foxtrot is not equal to a transmitted number. 6 is the only one of which we have a transmitted number present. Now, if one of the 3 outputs is equal to a transmitted number, this is true. The final value is the difference between the other 2. Now, this actually does happen to be the case again, so we're simply going to be using this rule again. So the final value is going to be the difference between the other 2, so it's going to be the difference between 2 and Foxtrot. So it's going to be 15, because 15 in Foxtrot because 15 is just Foxtrot in base 36. We're going to minus 2 to this, is going to give me 13. Minus 9 is going to be 4, which is a delta. Now, you can just simply do the alphabetic position, which is just Foxtrot, which then it goes down to Echo, then to Delta, and we would have been fine there. So, now we're actually taking a look at Delta. So, this final value is going to be greater than or equal to alpha. That is true. And Delta wants us to press no when the color is black. These conditions have to do mainly with what's actually appearing on the display. These guys are a little bit tricky sometimes because they can be very particular, especially considering how fast the damn display is going. So, but this actually is a really simple one because sometimes we can have both word and color have active B components. Both word and color are secondary colors, etc., etc. It can be very tricky to figure this out. Sometimes even timer conditions, even minutes and odd seconds remain on the timer. Difference between starting time and the remaining time is a multiple of 7. That's probably the most annoying out of all of them here. But this one is actually pretty simple. We're simply going to be pressing no when the color is black, like we just had 2 instances there. So let's press no when the color is black to hopefully solve the module. And just like that is a solved module. As always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.